pets when they pass, do they stay with you or do they pass and move on like a regular human being, like their soul? Do they stay on Earth or do they cross over?
So they absolutely cross over. They go to where we go. The way I put it is they go into a different neighborhood. So we have everyone that's ever existed that is in heaven, or as I call it, home. And then you have every animal that's ever existed. We're talking lizards, goats, whatever, you name it, ants, everything that's ever existed goes to just another area. But all animals can come and go out of that neighborhood. So I love it. You'll see dogs listening to opera. You'll see
It's
people
awesome.
in that neighborhood. Like you'll see they're free to come and go. But when they're not around people, they just hang out in their own heaven. And there is water to swim in or jump in, and there's lots of grass to roll in, and there are wonderful smells. One of my favorite things that I've seen more than 25 times, at least 25 times, is so animals that like to hunt, let's say a cat that likes to hunt, they still get to hunt, but it's almost, think of it like a firefly, and it's little blips of energy that they can try and catch, and they can't
That's
hurt
awesome.
these little blips of energy, but that's how they can still use those hunting instincts in heaven. But they just kind of like swat at it, and it doesn't hurt this blips of energy, but it gets that motion out, and they love it, and it brings them joy, but it doesn't hurt anything.
Kind of like the what is it, like the laser that you put in,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
when
yeah,
you're
yeah.
having shape.
But these little
That's pretty
blips of
cool.
energy are alive and real, but it doesn't hurt them.
Well, that's amazing. That's great. Yeah, so it's totally the same way I see, like I always talk about like other dimensions in the afterlife. It's kind of, you feel like a different neighborhood. I guess it's just different word, right? That's cool. Okay. Somebody would like to know if pets have soul families.
So they have their biological families, they have their parents, they have their siblings. And actually, when I was first working with squirrels, I'll never forget this. A squirrel fell out of a tree, and they were rescued, but their parents unfortunately passed. And I had no idea the parent had a specific marking on it. And when this little baby squirrel that ended up passing a few weeks later, they were able to identify that their parent came and greeted them by that little spot. Not only do they have their biological families, but they will have their people families. So, and that goes for anyone that touched their life. So, if you've been a foster for pets, if you only had your cat for a month and unfortunately you were moving and you had to give it away, that you are included in that soul family. So, when I'm talking
Mm.
to pets, they will mention people around them, and sometimes these are people that you might not have never heard of because they might have touched them. And that's been verified. For instance, there was a dog that said there was a woman with long brown hair and she put her hair in a high ponytail. Well, that was the woman that transported them, and then unfortunately passed a few years later. So
Mm.
they are all connected, but they will come to those people that need them on earth. So let's say their first home, their people are those people are still here, but also their second family. But in that second family, they're going through something. So that pet might be take special attention to that family instead. But they can go wherever there is a need or wherever they want.
Do pets have a tendency to reincarnate within the same family, with the same people? Or do they just go wherever?
Pets have autonomy. That means they have a choice in coming back. In my experience, there's been only one time that a pet has chosen to come back to someone else that was not in either their direct family or extended family, for instance, their kids or grandkids. And in that case, it was actually a child that had the pet in the very beginning. The child was now an adult, and the cat in particular decided to go back to that child because there was a
Mm.
need. Pets will come back if there's a unique skill or lesson that that particular pet can teach you that another pet cannot teach. So sometimes they will choose to come back, and other times they find purpose in guiding us from there.
Okay, that makes sense. So pets, based on what you're saying, pets can actually guide you from the afterlife, based on your understanding of it.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
So we have our spirit guides, we've got our ancestors, we've got our loved ones that have passed, and then we have our animals that have passed. And sometimes they are actually more effective when they guide us from there, very similar to a spirit guide, but like an animal guide. And those are
Interesting.
pets. And if I say there's one pet that's taught you such a lesson, and you'll be able to think of that pet, those are the ones that are generally around you 24/7. And that is a choice they make, that that is what they want to do. They don't feel obligated to do it, because people go, oh, no, no, I don't want them to have to do it. No, no,
Yeah.
it's an honor for them to continue to lead us on. So, for instance, in my personal life, I have a male orange tabby. He was my first adult cat after college, and I haven't seen him personally, but there have been two instances where people who had no knowledge of him have seen him in times where he felt like needed protecting. One
That's
was when
awesome.
I was traveling away from home, driving down actually to do sessions in another state, in a strange hotel. And the other was actually also when I was traveling over in Europe.
Could animals, like, could the soul of an animal reincarnate within a human body? Is that a true? Could that happen? I've always thought no. Like, I've always gotten a no from my guides. I'm just gonna tell you that. But it's like I'm curious because I'm not, again, I don't tune into pets and I'm not a pet psychic. So it's like I'd love actually to hear what you have to say about this.
So what I like to say is I never say never. I have not seen it yet.
Yes, thank you.
I
Not
have
a
not seen it yet. However, I used to think that animals couldn't switch species. But again, not saying never. And then there was I believe it was a dog, and the dog, I was talking to a family that had lost their dog, and the dog said, well, I'm striped and I'm back with you. And unbeknownst to me, the family had already adopted a cat, and it was sitting right by them underneath the camera, but the dog was the cat. And I was like, holy crow. So
Interesting.
they can switch species. Is it as common as just coming back? I don't think so. I mean, I would say probably less than 5%. However, I never say never.
Can pets choose their life prior to reincarnation? Okay.
Absolutely. They can decide to come down with a certain person when there is a need for them to teach. So, for instance, Katniss has definitely taught me a lot about unconditional love, but there's a specific skill set that Katniss has, and she has chosen to use it with me. So, they absolutely have choice, just like people do.
People who foster, they'll foster cats, right? And or dogs or any other animals, and then they adopt them out. And people want to know, like, do the pets feel abandoned? Do they know that it was done out of love and then they passed and just to get them to be adopted out? Like, do they feel like that person who was fostering abandoned that pet?
Yes, they can. There can be some confusion. And so I actually posted a video about tips for foster families, because it's what you can say is you're safe for now. You are safe. You will have food, you have water, you will be warm, and you will be safe until you have a family. So those pets, though, will absolutely remember you, and they will be thankful for you. And I've seen actually foster families, foster people greet them after they have passed. Actually, a
Oh,
remarkable number of foster people will greet their pets that they fostered, or those pets will greet those people that fostered them. So I've seen it both ways. So there's a beautiful connection between foster families and their pets. Do they feel abandoned? I think the word that I often get is confused. They feel confused.
makes sense. And that
Exactly.
makes sense.
Yeah.
What about rehoming? I guess that would be the question too, because sometimes it does happen, right? Life happens and then you
A
are no
lot of
longer capable.
times, and it would be the same thing where a lot of times pets are confused about why they're going somewhere else. But I have yet to see a pet that was angry or that held a grudge against a person that had to let them go. I personally have had to rehome a dog before. It was
Yeah, me too.
for our best interests. And I find a lot of people have a lot of guilt when they have to. And what I have found is that pets don't blame those people. It's a beautiful understanding. And the most beautiful
Mm,
thing is when those pets come back and let those people know, I understand.
that's awesome. That's good. That's good. I think it will reassure a lot of people who always wonder that. Um, When can you speak telepathically to your animals?
Absolutely. We all have the ability to communicate with our animals. It's just a simple uh, understanding of first trusting what you hear. I say the stranger thing that you hear, the more likely it is to be them, and to be to practice it. I tell a lot of people that as you're falling asleep at night, close your eyes, you picture your pet in your mind, you say their name
Mm,
in your head, and you tell them something simple, generally 3 words. So if you are looking, let's say you want your dog Domino to cuddle with you more, and you could just say, Domino, cuddle me. Say that. Say it for, oh, I say usually say it for like 3 weeks. I say don't do it multiple times a day. Do it a few times a day. You can even do it in meditation, but you don't want to press it too much because they will get annoyed. But you start with something simple like that. Or you can ask a simple question, same thing. Close your eyes, you picture them in your head, you say their name, and you can just ask a simple question, are you happy? Do you like your food? And then you wait a beat, a second, and you wait for that answer, yes or no. So you start with yes or no question.
sure, like anything
However,
else,
if
yeah.
you're asking them to do something, again, you keep it to 3 words and you would say, Domino, cuddle me. No, drink toilet, whatever it is that you're trying to get across.
Stop drinking the toilet water. I get you.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes
Exactly.
sense. If your pet is sick and you have to make a decision, right? To put your pet down because, that's one of the beauty of being that actually we get to give them beautiful passing in some ways. Do animals understand that? Do they know? And also, how would you, because I personally get sent that question and I pass it on to you often when that happens. It's like, how can you make sure it's time, right? Like,
So
what's the best way to do it?
the first part of your question is absolutely, it is the greatest honor you can give them to help them cross over. Uh, there is no guilt, there's no judgment about when you make that decision. Is it the
Right.
right time? The universe isn't going to let you make the decision to have it at the wrong time. And I think the misunderstanding is that we are more in control than we think we are. So when we get
Mm,
feeling like it's time, is it time? And we're doubting, it's time because we feel it. So understand that the universe is always leading the way, and also animals in communicating with us and hearing them because we can hear them a lot more than we give them credit for. And so if we are getting that feeling, it's time to put them down or help them cross over. How do we know it's not them giving us the message? A lot of times it is
oh, you're
giving us the
right.
message and saying, I'm ready to go. And so you feel this and you go, oh my gosh, this is the right time. And then I would also ask that you ask yourself, am I keeping them because of me? Am I keeping
Mm,
them because I'm not ready for them to go?
sure.
So, one thing you can do is once you check that off, you let them know, I am okay with you leaving. You can go. I tell people to say it out loud. Sometimes the most simple thing you can do is say those words, and sometimes that's all they need to go.
Mm.
But if you're feeling like it's time for them to go, it's time.
All right, thank you. That was actually very helpful. I bet a lot of people will find a lot of peace with that.